Hi, I'm Gannon, and welcome to my podcast, The Franchise Accelerator. As the founder of the Largo Group, I have provided accounting services with a specialty in the hospitality industry over the last decade. I have prided myself on finding a way to work with my clients, not just where their businesses are today, but working with them to scale. What I've realized over the course of this work, this mission, is that the common challenge for business owners is how to scale. How can you go from one location to many locations if there's just you? This is why we've started the Franchise Accelerator, because inside you is a great idea that can scale. And with the right tools, the right techniques, you too can create a franchise, a brand that's more than just you grinding it out, working 80 hours a week, and sacrificing for your business. You can create a brand that can stand alone and can truly create financial wealth for your family. I'm so excited to be a part of your journey, and I look forward to being with you every week as we join on this adventure together. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be joined this week by Nate Barger, who is the founder of the New American Dream, not to be confused with the Old American Dream. So I'm so excited to pick Nate's brain about real estate, investing, passive income, because I think a lot of us, we're kind of in the active income category, but would love to learn more about, all of the great things that can be done. So Nate, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank all your guests too.
Yes. So, to get us started, I guess, tell us a little bit about your background, how you found real estate and, all of the great things that have led you to where you are today.
Well, I grew up like most real estate tycoons with a very rich father. And, he gave me everything. No, I'm just kidding. Look, I grew up in an alcoholic, dysfunctional family. My dad gave me PTSD when I was like 4 years old, hung me over a cliff by my ankles, by a dam by my ankles. And then after that, I started peeing in the bed again. And they were like, why are you peeing in the bed? I'm like, I didn't know why until I went to counseling when I was like 30 something years old. And so, even though my parents they did their best, they were young, alcoholic parents. They didn't have any, they did their best. And I love them to this day for that. But, it makes you grow up quick. And so by the time I was 14 years old, I was getting in trouble. I got sent away to a Ohio Veterans Children's Home. So I got sent to a children's home. I got out of there when I was about 15. I did a year there. And I came and our whole neighborhood was infested with crack. Like all the people that worked left our neighborhood, except my parents. They were just busy drinking, didn't see what the heck was going on. So when I came back, man, our neighborhood was like, it was the hood. And, people out there slinging drugs on the corner. So I got a job. I started selling weed. And then I got a job at Rowley's. It's the only job I ever had. I had it for 2 weeks. And I was coming back and I was seeing them make all this money. I was like, man, I ain't going back $4.25 an hour. So I started selling drugs. And, by the time I was 22, I've been in and out of prison twice with 4 felonies.
Wow.
And so I met a guy in there and he said, man, my buddy got busted. I was like, we all got busted. That's why we're in here, Chris. And I said, what'd he get busted with? He said 13 tons of weed. And I grabbed him on his shoulder. I said, man, did they get them all? I need to meet these people. And so, then I get out of prison and he calls my mom. And my mom, she didn't know he was calling whatever. And so I end up hooking up with him. We go down to Texas and we end up getting a plug down there. And for viewers that don't know what a plug is, that means we got hooked up with some weed cheap and we brought it back up here and started selling it and making money. And so I did that for my whole 20s, from 22 to 29. And I didn't want to. I mean, I made millions and millions and millions of dollars. There was nothing I could do with this money. Like, what am I going to do with it? Go buy property? Like, I can't buy property. Can't even really go buy like expensive cars. I mean, I could buy a Mercedes or BMW, but I can't go buy Ferraris and Lamborghinis because the feds will be on you, right? And so I'm in Cincinnati, so you can't be that flashy here. And so I had, I can totally understand a lot of your viewers because I ended up getting a nightclub to start kind of laundering money, washing my money through. And so, boy, that was, if you can do a restaurant or a nightclub, real estate's a piece of cake. And so for those of you that are listening, man, it's great to get income, but man, real estate is not that hard. And it goes up in value in your sleep. So when I was 29 years old, I cried out to God because I didn't know what to do. And he showed me real estate. So for the next 5 years, I would meet the woman of my dreams. She helped me get sober because I'd become an alcoholic by that time too. And I started buying real estate, and I got, I don't know, 250 units within about 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
And a recession came and I lost everything and went bankrupt. And I came out of bankruptcy in 2013. And I remember looking at my wife one day, and the sheriff's knocking on our door to serve me a subpoena to come to court for a foreclosure. And I was like, come on, let's take a ride in the car. And I took her over to the neighborhood we live in now. I said, this is where we're moving to. And I thinking back, she supported me. So for those of you that are struggling and your spouse just has these crazy dreams, sometimes they just need somebody to believe in them. And I'm thinking back now, like, she must have thought I was crazy. Like, the sheriff was just at our door. Like, we got nothing. We're Chapter 7 bankrupt. And I'm taking her through this multi-million-dollar neighborhood, tell her this is where we move. And you start thinking about what kind of house you want here. Because I told her, I said, I figured it out. And with a 400 credit score, my tax returns were like negative 359 and negative 329 because I had a lot of losses from real estate and no money. I put together, the day I came out of bankruptcy, I started working on my credit, and I started syndicating capital. And I had investors that even went through the bankruptcy process with me that stayed with me because I didn't include them in the bankruptcy. I didn't miss a payment. I worked it out with them. I had some banks that I had to, work things out with too, but it was all a workout, and it was all a biggest learning lesson of my life. So what I've developed over that time is a strategy that works over and over and over again. So from 2013 to 2015, it was 30 months. I created over $35,000 a month in passive income. And I was able to, at the end of 2015, we thought we were going to retire. We went to Florida for 4 months. I was burnt out. I worked relentlessly. And then I realized that I wasn't really burnt out on real estate, that I loved real estate. I just wanted to do it in a different capacity. So my wife she loved Florida, but she missed her mom. And so we came back up to Cincinnati, and, we had sold our house. And so we moved to another house and then start building our wealth. And I remember talking to my partner, Mike, and he said, we were doing a deal. And I said, man, I don't feel like doing all that work. I was like, man, that's a lot of work to make $1 million. And he said, excuse me, did you just say we're going to pass on this? I said, man, yeah, it's too much work. And it was at that time that I realized the value of my time. It's hard to realize the value of your time if you're always worried about bills next week or next month. So it's very important that you create passive income, because that passive income will get you to a goal where now you're taking back your time, you're controlling your time, and you're telling people, I'm not doing that for $20 an hour or $50 an hour or even $500 an hour. I ain't doing that, because there's a better way. And so over the past, since I went bankrupt, it's been 10 years now. I now own about $250 million in real estate, including Hilton hotels, IHG, Marriott hotels. I had about 1,800 apartments. I sold off 300 or 400 of them last year because the market was peaking. We knew it was peaking.
Yeah.
We knew we were at the end of a long-term debt cycle. And I started teaching people real estate about 17 months ago. And man, amazing results. We've had over 20 people become millionaires. Now, these are self-made millionaires. A lot of them, one guy started up with $500. He has 46 units now. It does not take money to make money. It takes education and knowledge and determination to make money. The money is easier to get. If you have the knowledge and you know how to put a business plan together, you can get the money. People have money that don't want to work. And so today, that's what I do. I got a group on Facebook. It's one of the largest groups. We got over 240,000 people in it that I mentor and show how to do real estate. Then I have a private academy too for those that really want to go out and start investing and get crazy returns. I show them how to do the Burr method, which is buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. It's just buying properties on steroids.
Wow. That's an incredible story, and so
Well,
much
thank you.
to
I left a lot out, but I know we don't have forever. So
no. But so I guess if you're, because again, I think we talked a little bit offline, like our audience for the most part are people who are entrepreneurs, working in their business, trying to work less in their business. I think you touched on a lot of the pain points, right? That you only have so many hours in a day and you put in all of your time into this business, and it's, it's a grind. So what would you say is, how could someone get started in passive income or passive investing if they knew nothing, but have heard, this idea of passive investing? Like, what are some places where they could start?
Okay. You got a lot of restaurant owners, right?
Yes.
I'm going to show you guys a hack. I'm going to show you guys a quick hack. So let's say, what's the average size restaurant? 3,000 square feet?
Yeah, that's a good ballpark.
Okay, let's say, here, let me grab my calculator.
Right, so Nate's awesome, by the way. I love this interview.
Look, man, because watch this. Let's say your landlord is willing to sell you this building. See, you're making your landlord rich. All you're doing is paying his mortgage payment every month. He's getting the tax depreciation. Your rent has escalation charges in it. You probably have triple net, so you got to pay for everything and over and above. And he has fixed debt. Meanwhile, the value of the property is going up. It's going to appreciate. We may go through some little bit of turbulence through this next recession we're probably going to see, but the property values always go up. Yeah. Why? Because of inflation and the government printing more money. So it's inevitable that property values are going to go up as long as you're in the right area. So let's just say, and I'm going to run some numbers, and I've shown many people how to get wealthy quick using this formula, especially restaurant owners. That building that you're in, for the most part, isn't worth a lot of money if it's vacant. So it's heavily discounted unless it's in the area that's just blowing up. It's not worth a lot of money. It's the lease is what's worth the money, because you can't take that building to the bank and borrow money. The bank's going to say, how are you going to pay me? I'm going to bring you some bricks from the building every month. You're going to say, man, I don't want no bricks. I want money. So there has to be a lease on that building. So at the end of your lease termination, or especially for those of you that have an older landlord, just say, hey, I want you to do a lease option with me. I want to buy this building out. If not, I'm going to have to think about moving somewhere else because I need a tax write-off, right? Maybe that's the reason, maybe it's not. So let's just say you had a 3,000 square foot building and he's leasing it to you for $12 a square foot, right? Let's say 15 a square foot. That's $45,000 a year divided by 12 months. That's $3,750, right? So 3,750 times 12, that's 45,000. Let's divide that by an 8 cap. Okay, let's say 8.5 cap because the market is kind of moving. You guys understand what cap rates are?
Let's explain just in case.
A cap rate is a metric that commercial properties trade on based off of what kind of return it can give me after everything is paid. Basically, okay. EBITDA, right? You guys understand EBITDA, and it's basically, so you take EBITDA and divide that by 0.08.5. That's an 8.5% return.
Okay.
That building that generates $45,000 a year in free cash flow is worth $529,000. Now I take $529,000, I go borrow 75% of that from the bank. That's $397,000. And let's go say I borrow the money at 5.5. I'm getting money at 5.5 on commercial deals. I know a lot of people are saying you can't. Well, I am right now. And you can if you go to your local credit unions. Be strategic about it. A 5.5 is going to look like probably a 6.75 on paper with the 30-year AM. Is that right?
Yes.
So we're going to times that by a 0.0675. That's $26,800 is what it's going to cost you for $45,000 in cash flow. But now you got $18,000, but you had to put down $100. That's about an 18% return. Now you say, well, Nate, I don't have $100,000 to put down. Boom. Here's how you make money. You come in and you raise your rent because you're making money. You need more expenses. You raise your rent. Let's say market rent's $22 a square foot. 22 times 3,000. That's $66,000 a year, right? Now you got to think And that's net operating income, guys. That is after all the expenses are paid, because you're going to do a triple net. You acquire this building, you raise the rent on yourself, so you're breaking the restaurant down. You're taking more money out of the restaurant and you're putting it over here in your real estate portfolio, where you're going to have other write-offs that will offset that gain. Now that's $66,000. Divide that by 0.085. Look at that. The building is worth $776,000 instead of $529,000. You just found a way to hack. Let's say you go borrow 80% of that. That's $621,000. The owner sold it to you for $529,000. You got $90,000 in your pocket. You got a bigger tax write-off. Now you own the building, and that's how you become wealthy in real estate.
I love it. That is so, so good. So, yeah. And I think so many times people forget about the value of their building, especially on, commercial. We see that all the time.
And the $90,000 you pull out, guys, you don't have to pay taxes on that. On top of that, it's an expense that you're going to be able to write off. So you get the money, you borrow the money at 5%. Inflation's 8%. You make it the bank giving you 3% to take money. They're like, man, take this crap. We don't want it. And you got to dig in and you got to understand why. And I'm not going to get into that right now because it's a long story, but basically you start to work with the feds. The feds need to print money. They can't print money without a lever. The lever has to be a bond, or it could be the bank going and leveraging. The bank has what's called fractional reserve banking. The bank, if you put 100,000 in there, they can loan $1 million or $1.2 million off of that. So they call the Fed, say, hey, we need some money over here. Nate over here buying more property. That's what creates velocity in the economy and gets more money and helps them grow the gross domestic product, in turn helping our country grow.
Wow. That's so good. So what would you say if someone was a little like risk averse, right? Like what are some of the ways that you can protect yourself if you do go buy property, commercial property, rental real estate? What if someone says, I'm worried about the risk? What are some of the things that you say to combat that?
Well, I mean, the risk can all be antiquated. And so they say, I'm worried about risk. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? Those are all great things to worry about. But now we need to put it on paper. You say, what if the furnace breaks? Okay, how's the furnace? It's 3 days old and it's probably not going to break. Oh, it's 15 years old. Okay, what's a new one cost?
Right.
It cost $20,000. Okay, out of that $90,000 that we took out, we're going to set some of this money aside in reserves. What if a meteor hits me in the head? Man, I mean, look, you can underwrite some things, other things you can't. But I can tell you this, that listening to the people that are real risk adverse, they are not the people that get real wealthy. They're not.
Yeah.
Wealthy people use debt as a tool because they understand that when you own assets, assets go up in value over time. Assets get paid down over time. And the biggest thing, which is why you were listening to her, is because of the taxes that they save you. And, the bonus depreciation is phasing out this year. It's at 80%, to 60, and 40. Get it and stack it right now while you can. Also, people that are risk adverse, there's other strategies that we teach. There's other things. You can get non-recourse debt, right? And I can tell you that when I went bankrupt, the only people that had money in those deals that went bad were the banks. I didn't have any. My investors had got their money back. Yeah. So when I went bankrupt, guess what the banks had to do? They had to come to me to work it out. So there was a workout. What was the workout? I'm going to tell you, I went to them same private investors and bought some of them mortgage notes back from the same banks, because you just can't. I mean, you can never, any business plan you put together, you could sit here and we spent 10 years to develop this business plan. The next guy, he went in, he jumped in month 3, he got some education, and now he done sold his company off for $10 million. Yeah. You're still developing your business plan, but guess what? You spend 10 years and you come in and day one, nothing's going to be like you thought it was.
Yeah.
You got to just jump in. You got to solve problems along the way. There will be problems. I'm telling you right now that becoming wealthy is hard. Being poor is hard. Pick your hard.
That's a great quote. And I think you're right. I mean, I think, in our shoes, especially through COVID, right? You saw all of a sudden people who owned restaurants for 20, 30 years and, it's it's all but gone overnight. I mean, thankfully it came back, but those were really scary times. And I, I'm such an advocate for diversification and the real estate side, because I think what I see on the tax side is the people that have retired well all own real estate. Like they all have, 2, 3, 4 rental properties. They own this building over here. And it's, I'm sure it took them a long time to do it. But now that they're sitting back and they have this passive income where, the same person who just, worked their tail off and retired and had a 401k, it's such a different picture. So I think everything that you're saying is something that people really should think about now, because it really isn't that hard to add your own building, or explore areas where you can buy instead of rent, and it just makes such a difference 20 years from now, because like you said, it will appreciate, even though there are bumps in the road. It will appreciate over time.
It will appreciate over time, because the way that we underwrite real estate in the United States at a residential level is we take people's income and then we times that by 0.36 to 0.42. And that is the multiplier of their income that we use to qualify them for a house. So as long as wages continue to grow, then property values will continue to go up. You see, when you work for somebody, they say, I'm going to give you a raise. When the government gives you money, they don't say, I'm giving you a raise, because it's not a raise. They say, I'm giving you a cost of living increase. That's all it is. You're not able to afford any more every year off that raise. Things just cost more. And the real estate costs more, but you have fixed debt on it, and your tenant's paying that debt down, and you're getting the appreciation, and you're getting the accelerated depreciation, and you should be getting some cash flow. And I know you said it take a long time. It does not. I have a proven method. It's called the Burr method. I didn't create it. I just perfected it. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. What I'm showing you guys to do, I do this daily, and with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of assets at a time. It's all we do.
Wow.
We create and find value in apartments and hotels. I got warehouses too, but I like apartments. I really like hotels because they're hands off for me. I can scale a lot quicker.
Oh, so tell us a little bit. That's interesting. So so you buy a hotel and then renovate it, or how does that work?
Yeah. So hotels have a life cycle. Every 15 years, Marriott or Hilton is going to make you come in and re-renovate that. IHG, which is going to be your Intercontinental, your Stay Bridges, your Holiday Inn, they do it every 10 years. It's called a PIP, Property Improvement Program, because their guests have come to accustom that, man, you ever went out of town and somebody booked a hotel and you're like, man, what kind of, this is the Springfield Inn? Like, man, I'm staying there, right? But if you go to, if it's say Marriott or Hilton or IHG, or, you're like, yeah, man, it's a good hotel. Most of the time, you know what you're getting. You could be in China. I was in China with some of my investors and at the Hilton, and it's the same as here. Everything's consistent. You know what you're getting.
Right.
And so that's the brand will make you do a renovation. I'll give you an example. I just bought one. It's a 145 room hotel. And I could run through the numbers with you real quick, but I don't know. It's too much. Unless you want me to. It's not going to be too much for you, but for most people. It's a 145 room hotel. Rebuild cost on it's $30 million. I picked it up for $7 million because it needed a PIP. The PIP was $10 million. Well, guess what? I ain't paying no $10 million for that because I'm vertically integrated. We got our own construction company, our own fire, water, mold restoration company. We know how to source materials from China, now Vietnam, bring them in the country. We have a partner of ours that owns our own CMC millwork factory where they can fabricate, the granite countertops and the, what do you call it? All the millwork, which is going to be like your front desk and, all the boxes of TVs going. So we came in, did a renovation for $5 million. We bought it in a booming area that we knew was going to appreciate based off of the basic jobs that were coming into that area. So now what we do is we start to look at it and say, okay, if there's going to be future demand and you're going to have to build new property, and this is a Marriott, okay? It's a Marriott flag hotel. First, is Marriott going to renew the flag? They said, yeah, we'll give you 17 years. Okay, great. Now we got to come in and we got to figure out how much we can get it done for. We got it done for $5.2 million. Now we're in it for $12.2 million, and the property is worth 20. So we go do a loan for 75%. That's $15 million. We pay off our first mortgage. After closing costs, we walk away with a couple $1,000,000 cash. It's our money. Now, here's how it works. We valued that property at an 8 cap. Okay. We borrowed the money at a 5.5. It looks like a 6.75 on paper. So there's a 125 basis points on $15 million. Do you understand what I'm doing here?
Yes.
No, so on $15 million, we're making a 1.25% spread off what we're paying the bank and what we're collecting. So times that by 0.0125. That's 187,500 in cash flow. We also have about 170 or 150 basis points that we're getting in principal reduction. So take that same 15 million times that by 0.015. That's 225,000 in principal reduction every year. And then we created 5 million in value that we get an 8% return on. That's what, 400,000? Let's just do it real quick. 5 million times 0.08. That's 400,000 plus the 187,000 cash flow. It's $587,000 in cash flow divided by 12 months. That's 48,916 in cash flow. But guess why we bought it? We bought it for the accelerated depreciation. When we bought that hotel, how much did I say we paid for it?
12. You're in at 12. Yeah,
7 million. No, 7 million. I didn't pay 7 million for that hotel, right? I paid 7 million for the hotel, for the flag, for the bed, for the fixtures, the furniture, the equipment. The IRS says, hey, a lot of that you can strip out year one because it falls under 20 years on a maker schedule. So we walked away, I believe it was a $2.6 million write-off day one just for buying it.
Wow.
Our tax valuation, we got dropped from 10 million to 4.6 million based off the purchase price. That saved us $17,000 a month. That creates more cash flow. And then when we went in and did the renovation, the 5 million of renovation, we were able to strip out 3.6 million of that in depreciation, right? And so you get all these tax benefits, and now I go sell a property off, and man, the government's sending me things for food stamps. And I get the Obamacare credit because I don't make any money. Because I get freaking credit.
Right.
Yeah, because of the accelerated depreciation, because they ask you, what's your line item? What is it? 18. How much money do you make? Well, I ain't make no money, man. I say, man, I made 50 grand because if I tell them I lost, $1 million, they're going to put me on Medicaid.
But so true. I mean, people don't realize the impact depreciation can have, and being smart about it and being aware of it and the rules, it makes such a difference in the planning, because really then you're strategic about what you're buying every year, and that makes a huge difference.
You're strategic about what you're selling, and you guys have the same exact tax code that I have. And Donald Trump, I don't know why he doesn't want to come out and tell people. This is how it works when you own real estate.
Yeah.
And, I know you guys say, well, if I don't show any money, I can't borrow any money. That's not true. The banks, if the commercial bankers understand how to add back in accelerated depreciation.
Yeah.
So they'll say, oh, you make plenty of money.
Yeah.
And so, it's once you perfect this, like I said, I did not create the Burr method. I perfected it. Right. And that's what I teach people how to do. And that's why they're able to accelerate their growth and become wealthy so quick.
Yes. No, and I agree with you. I think it's, finding bankers, most bankers understand it. And, just because you show a big loss, it's not necessarily a bad loss. It's an investment into the property, it's growth. And
it's
I think
paper loss.
They understand that. And I agree with you. I think business owners all around the country, not just Trump, could do a better job of explaining that, because there's years it obviously doesn't work in your favor. I've had clients where they're like, oh my God, I have no capital improvements this year, but that's okay, right? Yep. Because the years they did, they spent money, they invested in their business. Like, it's not like it's a game. It's just being strategic and understanding how to make the tax rules work for you. And I think that's such a valuable lesson. And
I want to say that one day you guys do have to recapture that too. So I don't want you to think that you just get it all. You have to recapture that. But the key is, if I'm selling 20 million worth of real estate and I have to recapture my depreciation and I'm buying 40 million that year, you'll be okay. Yeah. But when you stop buying and you start selling, that's why you got to learn to transition your money into different things. Like, I have an institutional high vehicle, high value, insurance policy that I can dump money into and I can borrow against it.
Yeah.
So you essentially become your own bank. And then by paying your insurance policy back, you're able to create a write-off on this side, the tax side.
Yeah. No, and I think it's just being aware of your tax picture, because that's what I tell business owners all the time. It's like you have to own your finances. You have to own the information. You can't just rely on a CPA or someone doing your taxes and then say, well, I don't understand it. Like you have to understand it in order to make it work for you. And I think the more you
You have
understand
to
about
know
it,
in the beginning. You're right. In the beginning, you have to know more than your CPA, because your
yes,
CPA probably, when you're starting, you're not just going to run into a great CPA like you in your firm. Like that's not where you start. That's where
yeah,
you want to get to.
yeah, yeah. But at the end of the day, it's you have to know it and understand it and make it work for you. But so where can people find more about you? Where can they learn more? I mean, your method sounds, really intriguing to a lot of our audience.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm on, TikTok. You can just Google my name, Nate Barger. I got a lot of YouTube videos. But my main area of focus is my private group. I have one of the larger groups. I think the largest real estate group in Facebook. And I know Bigger Pockets is bigger than us, but we're up there like on Facebook at Burr Invest, which is BRRRR Invest on Facebook. I do a live Q&A in there every Thursday night. Matter of fact, tonight. And I do question and answers, because my passion, and I know there's a crazy number, and I got a book coming out too, but crazy number, I want to help 10 million people become millionaires.
Wow.
And so far I'm like at 26. So we're getting closer.
That's a great goal.
Yeah, but it sounds like a big number, but you got to understand that there are 54 million millionaires in the world, and there's 22 million of them are in the United States. It is really, once you get the knowledge and the system, it is really not hard to become a millionaire. It's really not. It's very, very difficult and challenging because it's all mental. But once you get past that, you got it.
No, that's an awesome message. So thank you so much for your time today. We really appreciate it. And best of luck.
Thank you so much. It was amazing meeting you. And thank you for having me on the show.